Hey everybody, how's it going? Drew Creel here. In this video, the second installment of the greatest metal podcast of all time. This is a very special one because I have two of my really good buddies here, Zan Greene and Brannon Crumpton from Moru. And they're on the show today to talk about their brand new full-length record. It's called The Gods We Thought We Were. So welcome Brannon and Zan to the show.
Howdy. Hello.
Thanks for doing this, guys. This is fun.
Heck yeah.
I love it. So
love to be here.
Heck yeah.
Very stoked.
Talk to me about this record, man. How long have you guys been working on this full-length record?
Too long. I mean, we technically started writing the record in like late 2019, early 2020. Like I think we started discussing the concept of like what the record would be about in like December of 2019, and then started writing it in like January of 2020. But there's one song on it is the first song that we ever wrote with Tucker, which we wrote in like the spring of 2018. And we put an EP out in the winter of 2019, but just didn't feel like that song fit on that EP, so we just kind of set it aside and kind of put it in our back pockets for a while until it felt right. Then there's another like main riff on another track called The Deathless Emerges that like one of the main riffs in that song was actually the first riff that Brannon and I ever jammed on as a band before Moru even existed. So you could say that we've been working on it for 7 years.
So did you design like the riffs on the new record kind of around that one kind of leftover song that didn't fit the previous stuff that you guys were doing?
Not necessarily. I mean, the record started with a vague story concept that I think Tucker kind of initially brought to us, and then we all kind of like started making tweaks to, and eventually ended up with the story that we ended up with, and everything was just written around that. And then as we were writing everything else on the record, we kind of came to the realization that like, oh, this other song, this would actually be perfect to repurpose for this record.
So who's writing the lyrics? Is it Tucker or is it you guys, or like?
It's collaborative. I mean,
cool.
Like we wrote all of the music first, then started the very long process of writing the lyrics for it.
It's probably too many cooks in the kitchen,
we definitely did like. Yeah.
I think it's cool that like a band has like multiple members working on lyrics. Kind of reminds me of like, Dream Theater or Meshuggah. There's different musicians writing the lyrics.
Yeah,
and
it genuinely started out like I was watching the Cannibal Corpse Centuries of Torment documentary.
Oh, I love that one.
I was seeing like how they wrote their lyrics, and it was just like they would write a song and then everyone would write their own lyrics for that song, and then they'd all vote on what they thought was best.
The whisper vocals. Stuff that they do.
Exactly, yeah. So that was like the concept that I kind of brought to everyone, because Tucker wrote all the lyrics for the EP in 2019, but this one was like way more. We wanted to be way more intentional with it, and a lot more narrative rather than first person kind of lyrics. So I kind of brought the idea like, hey, what if we all write our own lyrics for each song and then bring them to the table and everyone kind of like vote on what parts we like. That ended up kind of not happening, but so it was very collaborative. I would say like mostly me, Tucker, and Gray, and then Jake and Brannon would kind of like help steer us.
Okay.
There were lots of moments where like me and Tucker and Gray would be like arguing over
some stalemates in there.
And then
hey, what do you guys think?
Yeah, and then
kind
Jake
of being the deciding factor in it.
But nice. And they'd just be like, I don't like any of it.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah. Or they would just be like, no, this guy's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I've heard that Brandon Highfill was involved in this record. Did he engineer it or produce it? And by the way, people that are listening, Brandon Highfill is one of the owners of Eastside Music Supply. That's where Zan works, and we'll talk more about pedals, and we'll nerd out on that later. But Brandon is a record producer in his own right, and I want to say that like he hasn't done a lot of super heavy stuff, but I think he did an incredible job with this record. Like sonically, it's there. Like the guitars sound sick, the drums sound amazing. It's very organic sounding to me. But like, what was his role in the record?
We kind of like self-produced it. Brandon mostly just engineered it. But
cool.
Yeah, what you said about like he hasn't really done any heavy music, that was very intentional. Like we wanted to have someone who wasn't really beholden to any norms or trends or anything, which not like dogging on any other engineers or producers or anything. We just wanted to have like a fresh perspective that from someone who is not really in heavy music. The record, the concept and everything, just we wanted it to have a very organic, kind of natural and unprocessed feel.
Brandon knows his like his outboard studio gear. Like I actually helped him kind of set up some of his stuff in his old studio, and I know he's working with who is he working with, or what studio did you guys record at?
It's Schematic Studios.
Schematic Studios, which is
it's Dave Elkins.
Dave
is
Elkins,
the owner
from the band May. If you guys have ever heard of May,
very not heavy band.
Very not heavy, but yeah, very good. You know, and that's kind of the amazing thing about being in Nashville is you get a little bit of everybody, man.
Yeah,
and you get influence. You rub shoulders with people that are making all kinds of different music, and you end up being influenced by just different types of musicians and recording processes and things of that nature. And I just think it's a real honor and pleasure to be in this area. You know, if you love music, you know, I'm sure it's similar in New York and LA, but Nashville's definitely got its own vibe and feel to it. So
yeah, I mean that's where we did our last EP, different engineer, but you know, we recorded, tracked a lot of stuff there. I mean, I know, like Chamber, Gideon, those are some other records that have been done there. So
at Schematic Studios,
cool. Different engineers that, you know, came in and used the space. But
wow,
for sure, like
Tate did the first Chamber stuff there, and then who did the Gideon stuff?
I believe it was Randy. Yeah.
Randy, yeah.
Who's Randy?
Randy LaBeouf.
Yeah.
He's just done a ton of records. His name is like super familiar sounding.
Yeah, I don't want to like pigeonhole him into a certain specific label, but I think he does do a lot of Pure Noise and Pure Noise records and some other stuff. In general, just like a lot of like metal hardcore kind of
sick
stuff.
Man.
But
very cool.
Yeah, so we had recorded the previous EP, Primordial Urge, with Tate Mercer at Schematic, and
so Tate works out of there too.
I don't think he does anymore. He was at the time, at least.
Yeah.
Shout
out to Tate.
Shout out.
He's
Tate.
a homie
for real.
Tate. I've literally been able to watch Tate go from being like a brand new like engineer, you know, that was just kind of like, hey Tate, make us coffee, and then like press all these buttons, get the session set up, Tate, to being like the dude who's making like really killer records. So
he
love that dude.
He did our second EP at Schematic, and then when we ended up deciding to go with Brandon, we were like, oh wait, it's gonna be in the same room that we did the last thing for. So it was like familiar space, which we all felt good about. So
that's awesome. Well, I love the way the drums sound. They sound very organic and natural, and you don't get that like clicky machine gun kind of sound that you hear on almost like every metal record these days. Talk about what it was like to record drums there. I noticed like I saw a picture of like your drum kit, and you've got like a tom from a different kit, and like a different floor tom, a different kick drum, and four different cymbals, and like how did that all come together? And I'll put a picture up on the screen of that for everybody to see. But
that was a endeavor.
Who put that together? Was it just
man? It was, just. I want to say that like I was maybe recording for a different band or something, and had just gotten back into town. Because I do remember having to go out and like get some cymbals. Like I had bought a fresh china that's like kind of tortilla shaped. It's weird.
Love a tortilla china.
Yeah,
it's a best tone.
It's so weird.
It sounds awesome. It's really dry.
Like, what
so
is it?
Sick.
Can you talk about it?
It's like it's like a fancy version of the Wuhan. Like I don't know what it's called because you can't even really read it like on the symbol.
There's no like logo on it.
There's like some words on there, but it's such a dry symbol.
So it's like not a Zildjian or a Sabian.
No, it's just something we found.
No, I picked it up from Drum Supply House.
Oh yeah! Shout out Drum Supply House.
Yeah.
Literally the day we were supposed to start tracking.
Yeah.
Brandon was like, "I don't have a china." So, so we had to go to Drum Supply and find a china, and this one was just like in like a box.
It's probably like Bill Bruford's old china, or something.
And just using what's there, like I guess I'm not a huge gear nerd. I definitely see the benefit in some higher quality cymbals or higher quality drums, but like I mean it really comes down to you as a player and how you hit the technique that you have,
Yep.
And so I guess that's why I didn't really sweat it, knowing I was coming from something else, didn't necessarily have my drums to throw in there and whatnot, but it was what was there, went out and grabbed what I could, what I really needed.
Yeah.
But
that's
I honestly
fun, man.
don't really remember exactly what I was recording with either.
That's all right.
Dude, I remember it was 2 days before the first tracking date, and Brandon was in the shop, and just like I was at work, and he was just like, "Hey, is your drummer bringing his own kit?" And I was like, "I assume so." And he was like, "Yeah, I've just got like an old like 70s Ludwig jazz kit at the studio. I assume he probably doesn't want to use that." And I was like, "No, he'll probably use his kit, but I'll text him just to make sure." And I texted Brandon. I was like, "Hey, you're using your kit, right?" And he was like, "Here's the thing, my kit's in South Carolina."
Oh no, dude!
And I was like, "Hey, Brandon, I think we are gonna use that Ludwig jazz kit." And there ended up being like a few more drums at the studio that we could kind of choose from. Which is why it kind of turned into like a Frankenstein kit.
Dude,
like
there's
that.
something cool about just like using what you have to make music. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? And not being like, we need to rent the Pearl Excalibur kit or whatever, with 14 toms. And like, I mean, that's cool too. And it's fun to take a pretty picture of a beautifully constructed drum set that's been polished, but there's something cool about like being like, oh, this is what we have, like let's get it tuned up and like let's go ahead and record. And so was it like coded toms and stuff like that on that record? Or?
Yeah, I think I usually run with coded, at least for recording purposes. That's what sounds like the warmest, and I feel like when you're trying to capture those sounds, maybe some clear heads like could be a little bit papery. Kinda. I'm not an expert on any of this stuff, though, bro. I just
you just hit the stuff, man.
I just
play the drums.
Well, you're an amazing drummer, man.
Thanks,
and
man.
Since we're on the topic of drums, you not only play drums in Moru and have for quite some time, but you play in a band called Your Spirit Dies, and I was actually listening to the EP that you guys put out in 2022, and I mean those drum parts are scary. They're so hard. I don't know how you play that. And not only that, but the stuff you do in Moru is totally different. It's more death metal, right?
Yeah.
And I would say this record, The Gods We Thought We Were, is definitely a step in a kind of a death metal direction.
Yeah.
But yeah, talk to us about Your Spirit Dies and maybe compare and contrast like the drumming.
Oh, for sure. YSD is pretty fast compared to
and every
Moru.
5 seconds a new riff comes in and the time changes.
I will say Moru like does add in the complexity of a lot of like triplet feel things, which trying to blast in a triplet feel is tricky. It's so tricky. You know, you might have the speed on a quarter note feel, eighth note feel, whatever, but you know, switch it to triplet kind of feel, and it's a different ball game for sure. One's faster, one's a little bit doomier, I'd say, but there's not a ton I'd say that's like hugely different. I just want people to hit drums hard. That's it. Just like hit the drums. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty simple when it comes to like playing. I don't like to do anything that's not solid. And so like, I mean, I'll even say like, you know, we were playing Muddy Roots. What was that? Like a couple years ago now?
22. Yeah.
The intro song to this album. It's called Genesis. And it's got a pretty long blast at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, guys,
it used to be twice as long.
it did.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
it
Lord.
did. It did. And at that show, I was like, I just felt the adrenaline coming, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to last through this entire class. And so I told everybody, I was like, can we just like kind of cut that down a little bit? Like, cut it in half.
Like we're about to start playing. Like we're tuning up on stage, and he's like, it's like, cut the intro in half, and we're like, what? And that's how it ended up being on the album.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, he was just like, I know I can play it solid for the first repetition.
Yeah.
I'm less confident about the second. I was
Yeah.
like, all right, let's just do it one time.
Yeah.
Like-
I'll say that like I'm not throwing any shade at people like who use triggers and stuff like that. It's not something that I personally want to do, and I know that there's like a ton of like really great technique that you have to still do that stuff. But for me, I just want it to be as raw as it can be.
Yeah.
And just hit as hard as you can. And you know, like that's my guidelines. It's like if I can't do that, you know, myself without anything else, then I don't want to do it.
So what you played on the record, you'll be able to reproduce that live very easily. Like you're not going to go into the
I
practice
would
shed.
say easily.
I hope so. I hope so.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. For anybody out there that's like unfamiliar with metal that might be watching this, like drummers in a metal band, they have it the worst, man. And like I actually tried to be a metal drummer for like last summer. I did that, and I was like, nah. I'm gonna stick with guitar. This is too hard.
I really want to wear like a calorie counter on like my wrist or something, whatever.
Yeah, you
like,
should.
For how much I burn, because I mean I could go run a mile or two. You know, maybe I could run a mile or two. You know, and I wouldn't sweat as much as I would in like a 30-minute performance because there's so much mental and physical exertion running in parallel.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just like, it's insane the amount of like just energy you're putting on.
Oh yeah, it's astounding, man. What you guys have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just amazed. And then on top of that, you know, you might have to play your set when it's 88 degrees outside at a festival, you know, and metal drummers will gladly do it, you know, and we're all the better for it. So one thing that I noticed that I kind of already mentioned is that like this record, this is the first ever full-length record for Moru, and I feel like your EPs that you put out were maybe more metalcore influenced, but you guys really went hard on like the death metal sound, and I kind of noticed like the vocals are more death metal on this record. There's a lot of variance in the vocals though. There's some highs, there's some clean singing on the record as well. So talk about the vocals and stuff like on this new record.
Obviously, the first EP that we put out was with a different vocalist, Josh Cena, and then he left, and then we got Tucker for the second EP. And Tucker had always been in like metalcore bands, and we were still kind of trying to do more of a metalcore thing at the time, but I don't know what kind of shifted, but we were all just like, we don't really want to do like moshy metalcore anymore. Like we still all love that kind of music and like to pay homage to it and sprinkle things like that in, but we kind of were like, I think we are best equipped to be a death metal band. We just found ourselves kind of gravitating more towards writing that kind of stuff, and then like as we were working on the record, Tucker kept saying like, I've been working on new vocal techniques, and we were just like, yeah, okay, cool. You know, like when we're practicing, when we're in the practice space, we can't really hear him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like we have a mic that's set up and everything, and he is paying attention to himself, but we're like practicing, we're making sure we're playing the parts right. We don't, like while the band is playing, we're not thinking about what the vocals sound. I'm just like hoping I don't mess up. And then like when we were demoing the vocal tracks for like to get ready to go to the studio, he like first song, he like busts out these like gurgly guttural like toilet bowl noises.
Heck
and
yeah.
I was just like, where did that come from? And he was just like, I told you guys I was working on a new, new technique.
He's grown as a person, I'm sure, but I remember him just being like this very, very skinny dude, you know, going to hardcore shows and stuff. And I feel like you guys kind of picked on him. Like there was a time where there was these stickers being made called like "Kill Tucker Pemelton,"
Destroy Tucker Pemelton.
Destroy Tucker Pemelton stickers.
I don't really know why that started.
That existed before I knew Tucker.
I
take no part.
If anybody out there is watching this that knows us, fill us in on the lore behind
I mean,
Destroy Tucker Pemelton.
To the best of my knowledge, there was just like, Tucker likes to like double down on controversial opinions about things. Like, no, that album sucks. Their best album is this album that no one likes, or something like that. And I feel like I remember it being like he just said something that everyone in the room was like, that's stupid. And someone just said, God, I want to destroy you, or like, we should destroy Tucker Pemelton. And then all of a sudden there were the stickers that said that, and people
like,
started putting them up
I remember like being at a show and literally seeing like his friends just beat the crap out of him in the pit. Just for like no reason. And it was like he was like a willing punching bag. It was very weird, but also kind of cool.
He also started to wear it like as a badge of honor. Yeah. Like he was like, I'm the guy that everybody loves to hate. And I respect him so much for that. I mean, like anyone, I'm sure it wears on you over time. And like we have every now and then like taken it too far, and he's been like, hey guys, chill out, like I'm a human, I have feelings. And we're like, okay, I'm sorry, that was too much. But no, he loves to be the he loves to be a loud voice.
Well, he is a loud voice, quite literally. But I saw pictures of him recently, and I was like, oh man, that dude, he really filled out. He's kind of like buff looking now. Like he looks like he's been going to the gym or something.
He's been working out.
He looks like he could hold his own now. He can fight back against all the haters.
He was definitely in his twink era when he joined the band. He was
twink era.
Yeah, he was either bald or had like bleached short hair, and was really skinny and you know, just not emaciated looking, but he definitely like embraced that look for a while, and now he's like grown his hair out. He's got he's definitely like put a little more mass on. Like
he's got some mass.
Yeah.
Well, he did a phenomenal job, Tucker. You killed it on this record. Now, is he doing all the vocals, or are you doing some clean vocals, Zan, or who's singing on this record?
I did some singing. Brannon did some singing. Gray did some of the like backing screamed vocals. The singing parts on track 4 and track 9 were all kind of like collaborative. We all just like individually recorded parts of us singing and like various harmony.
Yeah, there's harmonies on one of the songs.
Track 8 we actually wrote to be to feature Pete Kowalski, who's a friend of ours who used to sing for the band Ether Coven. He also was in the band Remembering Never. I met Pete booking at That 70s House, booked his band Ether Coven, and we kind of hit it off, became friends, and writing when we were writing the like concept for the album, we had this idea there was going to be like a really like long, doomy, ominous, almost kind of ballad song. And like from day one, I was like, I want to write a song for Pete to sing.
And is he the one who sings on that guitar or that acoustic guitar song that's on the record?
So about a month before we were about to go into the studio, I had been talking to him about it here and there throughout the writing process, and then I messaged him to be like, hey dude, we're about to go into the studio, like let me know like what you need from us. I've got the demo and the lyrics and everything. And then found out maybe 2 days after that he had actually passed away.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
Had to kind of call an audible, and I ended up singing that song.
Oh my gosh, that's so tragic, man. Can we talk about like maybe how he passed away, or like maybe not? Or
he had been battling cancer for a few years.
oh wow, jeez.
He had gone into remission, and then it had come back in, I think, probably the spring of 2023. Yeah, so he passed away that summer, right before we went into the studio. And so I kind of just decided, well, we're not going to scrap the song. I don't know anyone else that could do it justice, so I'll just do my best.
So that's you singing on that song?
Yeah, that's me on that song.
Dude, I really enjoyed that. I feel like that song is a nice break from just all of the brutality of the rest of the record. You know, it's nice to have a little bit of a break in the middle, and I found it to be very like calming, and it painted like this very like Western picture in my mind, but it was like cool, you know, like it's cool country music almost, like that particular song, you know. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
The whole time I was recording that, like Gray and Tucker kept like coming into the booth and like giving me like little pointers and everything. And honestly, the only reason I ended up being the one whose voice was on that track is just because the melody is so low that the other guys couldn't get down to some of those notes. And I was just like, well, I can hit those notes. I guess I'll do it. And they were coming in and being like, try to be a little more cowboyish. And I was just like, okay, I'll do with that what I can. And then Greg came in the next take. He was like, what if you try piratey or something? And I was like,
my gosh,
they were just throwing like all kinds of weird things at me.
I could see Greg doing that.
Yeah, he was like, what if you tried to sound more swashbuckling?
What was that word you said?
Swashbuckling?
Yeah. What is that word?
I don't know. That's something about pirates.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, I think the cowboy vibe came through, for sure. Well, dude, talk to us about guitars. You know, I'm a guitar player. A lot of people that watch this channel are guitar players and stuff. So talk to us about like the tunings and maybe the amps and effects and stuff. Like the record starts with this very ambient kind of thing. So maybe we could start there with guitar sounds.
So half of the songs, I mean, throughout the course of Moru, like we've kind of gone back and forth between two different tunings. Half of the songs on the record are played on a baritone 6-string in drop A, and then the other half are on a 7-string that the top 6 strings are in drop D, and then the bottom string is an octave D. So like
Lord.
all of those like low drone notes are just like double drop D.
Love it.
And then the bass obviously drop A, and then on the 7-string songs, Jake's just playing in D standard on like a normal 4-string bass.
That's killer. I love the song that has that kind of droning drop D riff. It's just, it's so heavy.
Yeah.
And it just kind of puts your brain in this like space, you know, to just enjoy the groove of the music. So.
Yeah. I mean, we all love Meshuggah. I mean, they're my favorite.
You do?
Yeah. I mean, they're my favorite band of all time. And so like any chance that we get to be like kind of like Meshuggah, we're gonna take that.
Oh yeah.
Went full shug on this record.
Yeah. There I mean, I probably can't even count the number of places on the record where like during the writing process we're like, what if we do like that Meshuggah song? There's countless like references and homages.
but I don't think it's certainly sonically not a direct copy of Meshuggah. I mean, you hear other bands basically like do almost the exact recording method that Meshuggah would use, but you guys you're just inspired by their guitar playing and their riff writing, and then you've sort of taken those ideas and made it your own, and you have your own tuning and all of that. So probably my favorite track that really stood out was Terracite, because it has that one like just scream part that comes in like on the chorus, I love that particular song.
That's been a long time favorite of mine.
Yeah, that one was like
pretty early on.
It was like the second song that we wrote for the record.
Yeah.
Not counting the one that we wrote in like 2018.
Yeah.
I mean, in order of what we wrote, it was Anthro Supremacy and Terracide. And so then it just kind of made
Terracide. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
I'm thinking of Cattle Decap.
The Cattle Decapitation.
Record.
Dude,
Terracite.
When I saw that they were putting out a record called Terracite, I was like, come on.
Well, this is Terracide.
I was like, we just named the song.
Yeah.
But no, writing that song, honestly, I think that song was the one that came together the quickest. Like that one was mostly written in one practice, whereas the others were like, we spent over the course of several practices refining and reworking several different ideas, but that one just kind of flowed right out.
I would like to write more like that.
Yeah, how do you guys write? Is it just dudes in a room jamming metal, or is it like guys at a computer like being a nerd?
I'd say Zan like writes a riff, maybe on his own time, records it, sends it to us, and at that point I'm like, okay, I can kind of like see a drum part over this, you know.
But you program drums too, though, right? Like you program like your ideas out.
Yeah.
Just is that like a convenience thing, so you can like like revert back to it? And
I mean, I'll usually we'll figure it out in the room. Together. And then I'll program it, and then we'll track, you know, guitar to it kind of thing. I mean, that's just like, hey, let's just pre-pro this as much as we can to just make sure our ideas are right. You know, where it was like conveying what we wanted to in the room, you know, before we're taking it to someone else to actually like, you know, officially record.
Right. Yeah, most of the songwriting process is like I would have one riff, maybe two, and show them to the guys, and Brannon would come up with a drum part for that, and we just kind of jam on that like just for a while until we kind of had an idea of what should come after that, or like what that should come after, and then maybe come up with something to add on to it, and then, you know, etc. Eventually end up with a skeleton of something, which like Anthro Supremacy, like all of the parts of that song, when we were originally writing it, it was kind of just like A, B, C, D, E, and we were just like, man, this doesn't feel good. It was like, it feels very riff salady. And then we were like, oh, what if A is the intro riff and B is the verse? And we like come back to that later, which like there was a lot of like actual like verse chorus structure on this record, which we had not really done before. So like first practice, we just had a linear like sequence of riffs. And then the next time we revisited it, we were like, what if we take that and put it here, and take this and revisit it here, and move this to the very end, and stuff like that. And then after the song was like kind of assembled, then we would go demo it at Brandon's house, and he would program drums for it and kind of figure out all of the like intricacies of the drum parts in the programming.
And then I would write stuff that I couldn't actually play. I have to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were plenty of fills that like he would like just program something just
like,
absolutely stupid.
This sounds sick.
Yeah, and send it to us and be like, "Do you guys like this drum fill?" And I'd be like, "Yeah. Can you play that?" And he's like, "Not yet."
Not yet, but I will.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, man. So, like, guitar players are like known for making these insane drum parts that are just totally stupid and that like can't be played, and then the drummer has to play them. And I think there's the other side of that is, hey, maybe it's making drummers play better.
Dude,
what are your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think a lot of like modern metal drummers probably owe a lot to their guitarists for writing insane stuff and then being like, hey, can you play this? You know? For real, I think that is definitely true. Even with, you know, like you mentioned the other band, Your Spirit Dies, like that. There's a new record coming out on that side, and like it's full of guitarist riffs, writing drums, and me just like having to play it, having to figure out how to play it. I think it's fun, like trying to figure it out. Sometimes it sucks, but
dude, the stuff that I listened to today of you guys, which is your EP, which has 4 songs, it's got like 1,000. Is it 1,000 needles?
2,000.
2,000 needles. Yeah. I listened to that, and then the song Sacrosanct. Oh my god! It's the most technical metalcore I think I've ever heard. Like
that's rad.
It made August Burns Red sound like children's music to me, like in terms of like technicality. If you're just speaking about that, so was that like really hard to like practice all that stuff and get that down?
I'd say there's a few parts in there that were pretty tricky. Overall, not really. I think it's just a matter of like getting in the habit, getting yourself trained up to that, you know, and that you know, that probably means like playing every day to, you know, just like you would try to, you know, have a PR for you know, lifting weights or something like that. Like if you're trying to push the needle, you got to do it every day. You got to train it, you know.
Yeah. Now, when you practice drums, are you doing like specific foot and hand drills, or are you just playing music most of the time?
I would say like since I've become to be more technical in my parts, like I've had to practice, like get back down to like foundational like technique and practice that. Here recently it's been a lot of like trying to strengthen weak hands, trying to be a little bit more versatile, but like, you know, build the foundation out even further. But yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of technique work between hands and feet. Trying to lead whichever way is, I think, super important.
Like playing hi-hat, leading with your left hand, like do you do that?
Well, like I think that's a really valuable skill for sure. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I would just say like, you know, if you're starting every fill on your right hand or something like that, like maybe you need to try and do it on your left hand. And I would even say I would say the same thing for your feet, you know, trying to alternate wherever you can. This was something that I kind of saw from another guy on YouTube. Chris Turner plays drums in a band called Ocean's 8 Alaska, I think.
That guy is a monster.
He's incredible at the kick drum, and his secret is that wherever he can alternate, he will. You know, like, I mean, if you think about the bleed rhythm on kick, like the Heritas, you know, most people, I feel like most drummers, I mean, the way that I kind of learned it was leading with your right foot all the time. So every time it's you know, it's doing most of the work.
Then your right hip flexor is literally on fire.
Yeah,
like,
but imagine
trying to play that.
Imagine how much further you could have pushed the needle with tempo if you could, you know, alternate every single time. So
now, when you play blast beats, Brannon, are you doing a double-footed blast or single-footed most of the time?
Single-footed thus far. I think I'd single-footed like everything on the record. Yeah. But I think we're probably just getting to the point that I can't rely on that anymore. I really got to lean into alternating. I will say, I think for recording, the best thing to do is to always single foot. I think you get much more even hits out of that.
That's the old school. That's like the original black metal and thrash guys. That's how they insist on doing it. But a lot of the modern tech death kind of guys are doing alternating stuff.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If you can alternate and it sounds like you're using one foot, by all means, go ahead. But I feel like that's a really hard thing to achieve.
Yeah, a lot of these modern deathcore drummers are just doing the most insane stuff with their heel toe techniques and swivel foot and oh man, it's crazy. I saw this band called Awake in Providence recently. Their drummer was out of control, dude. Yeah. That band was crazy. The Last 10 Seconds of Life. Have you guys checked them out?
Oh yeah.
Holy crap. Their drummer was doing some stupid stuff with his feet.
Yeah.
Straight up dumb. I think he was a swivel guy. I tried to embark on that quest, but it was just not happening for me. And I was like, you know what, man? Like, life is short. I just want to get better at guitar, you know? So I kind of like shifted gears, and I still play drums for fun. I have my kit set up in the next room, but yeah. And you actually took some guitar lessons with me. Like, you were getting into guitar, which was fun, man. I really enjoyed teaching you for a short time.
I hope to return for sure, but I just had a lot of things that I wanted to focus on in the drum world, and I think you kind of did the same thing. You were like, maybe I need to focus on some things in the guitar world.
Man, I can't play guitar like Dean Lamb yet, so I guess I need to practice more. So I'm really curious about what does that mean, the gods we thought we were? And you guys have mentioned that this is a concept album. Talk to me about like where these concepts come from. Like, is there a message that you want to convey? And
it's not necessarily a message that we want to convey. It's kind of like maybe a little bit like a combination of just a love for like horror as a genre, and specifically in the like sci-fi realm. We drew a lot of influence from H.P. Lovecraft. I know he's a bad guy, but
he's written some of the best works of all time. Yeah, in that genre. So
yeah, so the basically the concept of the record is like set X amount of years in Earth's future, and humans have like completely sapped the planet of all of its natural resources, which like we actually are on a trajectory for that. So so there's a little bit of a message painted into there, but it's more in the fiction realm than trying to be a commentary on anything. And so then there's like this idea that Earth and all of the other planets in the universe were created by these alien gods, and on each planet they planted a guardian or kaiju or something, some sort of deity, monster, titan, that is like the planet's failsafe. And the fourth track is about like this cult that worships these alien gods, and has been passed down generations since the dawn of man, basically, and they come to the conclusion that they need to awaken Earth's Titan because it's too far gone, it's beyond repair, we need to hit the reset button. So then they awaken the Titan, and it just destroys all of Earth's life.
So amazing. Sick. I'm in. So is the demon that's literally like popping out of the earth on the album cover, is that the Titan that you're referring to?
Yeah. A guy named Adam Burke, he's the one that painted it.
It's a beautiful album cover, man.
He does amazing stuff. He's done a lot of really great album covers for a lot of heavy bands that we love. And so when we talked to him about it, we just said like, here's the concept, have fun with it, do whatever you think is best.
Sick.
And he sent a rough draft, and we kind of just like edited a little bit, and we were like, hey, let's make it look a little less anthropomorphic, like, because we want it to be a little more ambiguous. Like, we don't want to give away exactly what it looks like. Like, you can't really tell exactly what the Titan looks like on the album cover, but it's still like, this is definitely not just a guy.
It was a shocking image to look at. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just looks it looks like a demon is popping out of the core of the earth and then like destroying the crust of the earth, and it's going out into space. And yeah, conceptually, like what you were talking about reminds me of, it's basically like, I don't know if it's like the aliens from the planet Nibiru. Have you heard about this stuff? Like,
I don't think so.
Like, it's like the panspermia like thing where like these aliens like came to Earth and basically like designed us and put us here. Okay. And there's actually people like,
is this like a conspiracy theory?
Yeah, it's kind of a conspiracy theory. There's a guy that went on Joe Rogan. There's been a lot of crazy dudes going on Joe Rogan lately talking about I think this guy's name was Brian Powell. It's
probably real then.
It probably is. Yeah, it certainly is. So Zan, you work at Eastside Music Supply, and you're just a total gearhead, and you know more about pedals than I do. I would imagine. Talk about the gear that you used on the record, and then tell us about what you do at Eastside Music Supply as well.
I mean, most of the guitar tones, like the distorted guitar tones on the record, were a parallel blend of two different amps. I had my Mesa triple rectifier, which was like, that's usually my like go-to amp.
You've had that amp for a while.
Yeah, I've had that one for a while.
It's a great amp.
In front of that, I've got the Void Manufacturing Well Tall. Mm-hmm. That is going in front of the triple rec, and then
Is that like an overdrive pedal, basically?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's...
I don't have that one. I've got all the other ones, but...
Yeah.
It's like,
but I think he calls it a parametric overdrive.
Okay.
It's definitely more... I would say it's more of a distortion than an overdrive, but I mean, those lines are blurry. But I've got it on the... there's like a rotary toggle in the middle of it. It's on the farthest left setting, which is like the chainsaw, like HM2 kind of thing. And so that's in front of the triple rectifier. And then I've also got a second channel. It was going into a Klon Centaur into an original Klon Centaur.
Are you serious?
Yeah. That's
the $2,000 one.
Yeah,
$2,500 one.
Perks of recording with Brandon Highfill of Eastside Music.
They just have one at their studio.
Well, I mean, Brandon and Blair both have one.
Oh, of course they do.
Every now and then, they'll like something will come into the shop, and we'll get a good deal on it to resell, and one of them will just be like,
"I want that.
That's coming with me."
The perks of being a shop owner, right?
I mean, it comes with the territory. But yeah, so when we were recording with Brandon, I was like, hey, you got some cool pedals I could check out and maybe use? I know you got...
He does have cool pedals.
Yeah,
I've seen them.
I mean, both of them have insane pedal collections. Klon Centaur into a Crate Excalibur head.
What is that?
I got it for $100. From Kelly Cook, actually. It's just like a solid state, really like not incredible amp, but it sounds like a 90s death metal guitar tone.
Oh,
you
cool.
know, just like dimed everything on it. It's like the noise floor of it is just as loud as the guitar itself. Like
nice.
when we were tracking it, I just had everything dimed and Klon into it also dimed. And it started like as a joke. I was just like, I just want to see what this sounds like. Yeah. Like the most expensive pedal of all time into a $100 amp. And it sounded awesome. So I was like, this is going on the record.
It sounds awesome. It is awesome. That could be the secret tone that people try to recreate years down the road.
Yeah.
Like the Queens of the Stone Age tone or whatever that everybody loves.
With the PD Decade. Yeah. No, the Crate Excalibur head is a ripper.
So you're gonna use that live?
I actually sold it a few months ago.
Oh no!
I sold it to Ben Boyd from Lethal Method.
Oh, Ben, man, is he still doing music?
Yeah, he plays guitar in Lethal Method and also sings in Idiot.
Sick.
Yeah.
Ben's a trip, man.
Which is so funny because Kelly Cook, who I bought the crate from, also plays guitar in Lethal Method. So I bought it from Kelly like several years ago.
It's back, dude.
Then our cat had some like emergency medical complications that I was like strapped for cash on, and I was just like selling everything, whatever I had that I wasn't immediately using.
Dude, every time we go to the vet, it's like $800.
Dude, yeah, yeah.
Or just a nice little checkup.
Yeah, our cat Sam like was peeing blood and stuff, so we had to go get him checked out, and like $1,500 later.
Oh my god,
he's fine now. But yeah, so I sold Ben that amp, so I won't use it again. But but it's on the record, so like almost all of the guitar tones on that are like 50-50, like well tall into triple rec and Klon into crate.
That's sick, man.
Yeah.
Is the other guitar player in the band using like some different stuff, or did he use the same amps and stuff?
He normally uses different stuff. This is just one of like a litany of things that went wrong in the studio. Our other guitar player Gray, he normally plays a 6505 head, which is an incredible amp.
It's like the best amp for metal ever.
Yeah, it's
5150 of any,
any 5150 variation is perfect.
The new ones are cool too.
Yeah,
the EVH stuff. Oh my gosh.
So he has a 6505, and like I tracked all of my guitar parts, and then it was his turn, and we got like 2 songs in, and his 6505 died. Like it ended up just being like one power tube that went out, but we're in the studio. We've got it, like we have a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
So all right, that amp's out. Like going back to triple rec, and we have to start those 2 songs over again
just to get a consistent tone.
Yeah. So yeah, he ended up playing through pretty much the same rig as me.
And you guys played through the amps in a tracking session. You didn't like reamp it, and like okay.
I didn't want to reamp anything. I feel like I don't think there's anything wrong with reamping. I don't think it necessarily sounds better or worse doing either way. Just for me, I feel like if I already love the tone and I'm like, we've got it dialed in and I'm already stoked about it, I'm gonna play better rather than playing into a sim and just having like a scratch tone. I'm not gonna get the same performance out of myself. If it's not like a tone that I'm in love with and stoked on. So and that's another thing that I was really excited about recording with Brandon, is that he was also kind of the same mindset that like, no, we get the sounds before we hit record. There's no dialing afterwards. Like this is the sound that's going to be on the record right now.
And there's something cool about that in the sense that like there's a little bit of magic there, you know, in the sense that you are creating tones and then you're recording that part, and there's really no going back,
right?
So that's kind of the downside of that. And I know that people do both sometimes, but it like for the engineer, it ends up being like, oh, now I'm recording 6 tracks every time this guy plays a chord, you know. So it's like a lot of tracks to manage, and it becomes kind of unruly in that regard. But that's kind of how records used to be made. It was like, okay, what's your sound, guitar player? And then it's like, well, I use a Marshall whatever. Yeah. And this is the cab that I have. Okay, well, let's get the best tone that we can with your setup.
Right.
And then we're going to track the record. And I think like if you look at like the Morris Sound records from the 90s, that's kind of what they did like back then.
Yeah, just doing the best with what they have.
And I've read stories where like, oh man, this guy's Digitech rig it's not working, man. Like, and so they'll convince the guitar player to not use a certain piece of gear. But I think it's special to do guitars that way and to make records that way. That's cool, man.
Like you said, it comes with its own drawbacks, and like there are little like artifacts and imperfections and everything on the record that we hear, like knowing how exactly what happened recording and like exactly how they sounded demoed out and everything. Like now listening to the record, we're like, could have done that better, or like clipping there or something like that. But you know, nobody else notices that.
I didn't notice anything like mistakes or anything.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like the drums and the bass were tracked together on the record, like in the same sessions, because Jake had a very limited time that he was able to be in the studio because his other band No Cure was about to go out on a tour on like the fourth day, starting on like the fourth day of tracking. So we had to do drums and bass live.
Wow.
And so doing that, like it definitely kind of like put us on a bit of a time crunch. And there were also like a bunch of other things that went wrong. Like the power went out to the studio the first day, and then the Wi-Fi was down, and there was no AC, and we had to go buy Brannon a new china and stuff like that.
Oh my
so,
gosh,
like,
dude.
we had all these things were going wrong, and like we were on this time crunch, and so like a lot there's definitely like little imperfections and bits of humanity sprinkled into the record.
That's good, man.
Yeah, which like again, that's what we want.
So the demon that's on the album cover was at the sessions and shut it down.
Was it was, I don't want to say everything that could go wrong went wrong, but a lot of things did go wrong.
It's frustrating, man. Like that's the music biz though, man. You just got to roll with the punches, man.
Yeah.
You know.
But no, I mean we're happy with the finished product, and that's really what matters the most. Cuz again, it's what we wanted. We didn't want something we didn't want something manufactured. We were just talking on the way over here about like the difference between like, I feel like with this record we were trying to almost like catch lightning in a bottle rather than manufacture some lightning into the bottle. Yeah, you know. So I think that we did a pretty okay job at it. But
yeah, and you guys are a band that writes songs in a room together, and so and you've played a lot of live shows. That's a big part of your sound. So going into the studio and approaching it from that standpoint, I think makes a lot more sense for Moru than a band that is more of a studio band where they build everything in the studio and then try to recreate it live. You know what I mean? Well, dude, so you work at Eastside Music Supply. Like, I've heard those guys that own the place are super mean and ruthless to their employees. So what's it like working there, man?
Yeah,
like, and what do you do there?
I get to see the sun like every other day, and I eat like
you sleep there, right?
Yeah, I eat like a cheese cube every like 12 hours or something. No, I mean, it's the coolest job I've ever had. And I would love to work there for the rest of my life.
Sick, dude.
If it makes financial sense.
Yeah. And tomorrow is Saturday.
It is Saturday.
Today is Friday.
Yeah.
And you guys will see this on Tuesday. But and the record is out today.
Yes.
So if you haven't listened to it yet, Moru, the gods we thought we were. You need to get into it. Yeah, help these guys out. I have a Moru camo t-shirt. It's probably the sickest metal shirt that I have. Get one of these and help these guys out. I know there's pre-orders for the physical stuff. Like, you guys have an LP, a cassette, and there's no CD that I saw on there from what I remember.
Yeah.
But
yeah, CDs aren't cool anymore. But
dude, I've seen some of these dudes on YouTube that have like literal like 2,000 CDs in their basement, you know, like surrounding them, and they'll do reviews of like very obscure like metal CDs, and I've sold a lot from my band Zaphon. I've probably sold about 20 or 25 of these at this point, which is, I don't know, pretty good for me. But
we talked about doing CDs, and I don't know, we just kind of like stopped talking about it. I don't know. I just feel like I enjoy purchasing vinyl and cassettes more. It feels like a cooler like thing to have.
Yeah.
For vinyl, I definitely understand it. It feels more substantial. It's bigger. And you know, there's more of a draw to it in that regard. And then for cassettes, it just feels more like there's like a novelty to it.
It sounds cool too.
Yeah.
It sounds warmer, and sometimes with my cassette, the speed is ever so slightly faster.
Yeah.
So we sound cooler. Everything's just a little. It's like, whoa, man,
so
this song rips. Dude.
Yeah, damn, he's playing that fast.
Yeah. Exactly.
He's booking it today.
Yeah, so cassettes are cool, man. So you're like basically like a sales associate there, but you probably do a lot of other things at Eastside, right?
Yeah, I mean, we all kind of wear every hat at the shop. Like, it's a pretty small crew, so everyone has to be able to do everything. But yeah, I mean, at its simplest, or like most simplified explanation, it's a sales job. But we also like take all the photos and write all of the listings for every guitar and amp and pedal. And
I always know when I'm looking on Reverb at a pedal if it's from Eastside, because there's a very specific floral background.
Right, yeah.
And I appreciate the hell out of that.
We've specifically curated that.
It's awesome.
That aesthetic. And I feel like we also have like a very specific shop voice as well. Like, we're always... like, it's very informal and conversational. Like, it's not like this sterile, just like informative, like, this is the pedal, this pedal is a recreation of the Tube Screamer, it features these things. It's more of just like explaining like how you would tell your friend about it. It's like, dude, this pedal's so sick. It's got a lot of gain, and the highs are really cool, and the mids are really sharp, and like, just kind of explaining it in a very casual, like, friendly way.
Yeah, like I feel like you guys use the relationship kind of thing. Like, you create relationships with your customers, and that's why they would rather buy the pedal from Eastside or the guitar from Eastside, because they know the people are there. They know the guitar is set up, first of all, because they have some of the best techs in the game fixing everything up. Every guitar that comes into the shop, I know they fix it up. But you guys curate very specific brands. You know, the one that you guys turned me on to was the Licklarum line, and I'd love to own the whole thing at some point. But I had no idea who that company was, and you guys have helped kind of bring that German pedal company to the U.S. and popularize it here. You know?
Yeah. Daniel from Licklarum makes some like incredible. One of my favorite things about his pedals is they're all like very feature laden. Like, he's got an effects loop that has a blend control on this overdrive, and like, I don't see hardly any other brands doing that. It's usually like you have to have a second pedal that does that to achieve that thing. I feel like every time he puts out a new pedal, I'm like, thank you. Like, finally someone did that with that. But yeah, we used a couple of his pedals a good bit on the record. The Transcendence reverb is used a lot on...
Is that like the opening track, the Genesis track?
I don't think I used it on that one. It's mostly all of the clean guitar parts on track 4, Beyond Within, and then a lot of the clean guitar parts on track 8, Into Oblivion. And then there's a few lead lines that I used the... Medusa pedal on, which is like his
HM2
thing.
Yeah, I have a video on my channel called Eyes of Fire, Heart of Stone, if you want to hear that pedal, anybody watching this.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool video too. I worked really hard on it. About 25 people probably watched it, but
oh, I watched it.
You watched? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So Eastside, you guys moved into a new location recently. How's all that going?
It's going great. I mean, it was a very hectic, chaotic few weeks.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like, when we announced that we were moving into a new shop, a lot of people were like, oh, so are you guys hiring like a moving company or something? And we're like, no.
It's us.
We are the moving company.
Yeah.
We are doing this all ourselves.
Well, because they would charge you $10,000 to move it over,
dude,
probably.
We also, like,
crazy.
we shut down... The shop closed on Sunday, or I don't remember what the date was, but the last Sunday of May. And then we reopened June 1st, which was the following Saturday.
Wow.
So in 6 days, we packed everything up, transported it, and then unboxed and reorganized it. Which, like, we've been talking about it at the shop, and I was like, I feel like if we had outsourced this to a third-party company to do it, they would have told us this is going to take 2 to 3 weeks. And this 7 of us did it in 6 days.
Well, and you guys know guitars. Like, you are all guitar people. You know how to handle them and move a guitar case around. And so, you know, if you've got an expensive guitar and some, you know, Joe Schmo from the moving company that doesn't understand it,
right,
like, he could drop it or
not worth the risk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. Yeah, the old shop was there for such a long time, and if there was ever like more than, I feel like 6 or 7 or 8 people in that shop, it kind of gets a little crowded on the sales floor, and it's hard to like help people. From what I understand, the new space is like huge. It's like a lot bigger.
Which, I mean, I do think that was kind of the appeal of the old shop, is very intimate feeling. Everyone that comes in, you're gonna have a conversation with them, because it's like you can only be so far away from each other because it's a small building. We had just kind of outgrown it. Like, we were getting to the point where every time we got a new amp in or a new line of pedals, it was like, where are we gonna put this?
Yeah.
So we started stacking stuff, and then on the wall with the pedals, everything was slammed up against each other. Any of the like wide pedals that were kind of short, we had to turn them on their sides to make room for everything else. Then there were some that it was just like, well, we just don't have room for these up here. We'll cycle them out as we sell more things. And same with the guitars. Like, we definitely had multiple times where there were probably 5 to 10 guitars that we had for sale that were not displayed on the floor because we didn't have enough stands.
Yeah. Jeez.
But now, like, in the new spot, we've got so much more room for everything. Like, way more room to expand. I think we've got like 3 times the amount of pedal shelf space, which it'll fill up fast.
Yeah.
But
excellent.
Yeah, because I think there's probably a dozen, if not more, pedal brands that Blair has been wanting to bring on that we just didn't have room for. So now they're like, we're gonna start bringing on way more stuff way faster.
That's exciting, man. And Brannon and Blair, if you're watching this, let's get you guys here. Let's get you to Clarksville.
Yeah.
We'll film a little podcast. We'll talk. I want to hear from you guys. I think that'd be really fun.
Blair's got lots of opinions to share.
I'd love to hear them.
He would love to talk about all of his
upset
opinions.
the guitar community together. As I do in every one of my videos, I'm always doing something wrong. So, well, let's do this. You guys have known each other for like such a long time. You're both from South Carolina, right? Are you guys from the same city?
Kinda.
Yeah, the other sides of the same, like, bigger city.
Okay, well, let's start with Brannon. Tell us where you're from and, how you met Zan and how you ended up in Nashville.
I'm from a small town called Liberty, South Carolina. It's literally on the other side of, like, the bigger city that we both live on, which was Greenville, South Carolina. It's in the upstate of South Carolina. But we met mainly through going to shows in Greenville, being a part of that metal hardcore scene and whatnot.
What's that metal venue in Greenville that's above a burger place or was above a burger place?
The Channel.
It's called the Channel.
Yeah, they closed a while ago.
It did.
Oh, it's sad.
It was rad though.
We played there on the last Plea tour, and the AC was out, so it was
I remember
1,000 degrees.
We were both there.
Yeah,
and you could see like the heat emanating off of John, their bass player, who's basically the size of, he's bigger than Jason Malmoa or Momoa, whatever that dude's name is. Yeah, he's a giant man.
Big
and
guy.
Please, they're big boys in that band.
Yeah, they are.
And that was an amazing show. But yeah. Sorry to interrupt,
Greenville
man.
especially went off for Plea.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Unlike any other band like coming through, like Plea came through, Greenville went off. So that's really rad. I'm guessing it was As Hell Retreats.
Yeah, that's how.
Yeah,
that
back in the day.
Like, it's probably really awesome to have that specific band to open for there, because I don't know, you might have not have gotten the exact same experience like Greenville loved to play.
Yeah,
A lot.
the first like local-ish heavy show that I ever went to was a Plea for Purging.
Sick.
Yeah, it was a Plea for Purging, Vania, 100th, and the Overseer.
Oh, I remember all those bands.
At like the old,
Vania.
it was at the old channel location before they had the burger place.
We love the burger place because when you're on tour, it's like, you know, you're eating like, I don't know, dog food every day.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you go to the channel and you get to sit in the air conditioning down below and eat a burger. And unfortunately, the last time I was there, the AC was out, so that was kind of bad.
Oh,
But
that's a bummer.
Yeah,
But the burgers were fire there.
I remember that show being particularly brutal.
people were there. People were hanging out though.
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
pitting.
It was awesome.
Going to shows at the channel was fun.
It was really rad.
So,
Yeah.
how old were you guys when you met?
I was probably 17.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
have been probably around like 22 or something like that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the case, yeah.
And did you guys play in a band together like back then?
No. I was a really big fan of his bands back then.
Oh, sick,
Yeah.
dude! You finally got your dream drummer
Yeah.
in your own
Makes
band.
me feel like an old guy now. I
No,
guess I am.
So you guys are in your early 30s?
I'm 29.
You're okay.
not
Or
30 yet.
I'll be 30 next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sick. And you're 33?
Yeah. No, we when we met, I was a really big fan of his old band Transient. Also played with a guy named Jacob Lauder, who also ended up moving up here, and we played in a band called Slow and Steady with him.
Remember that band?
But yeah, I had been a big fan of Transient for a while before we like became friends. I had also seen his like another band that he played in at the old channel in like 2009 called As Your Own. Were we friends before you started Beggars or?
Dude, I have no idea. It's so long
He
ago.
played in a lot of cool bands, and I played in one kind of dumb band.
I was
We've all played in at least one dumb band.
I was also a fan of Transient. There was a time where it was a band and I was not
True,
a part of
yeah,
it,
yeah,
you know.
fair.
So
Well, when did you move to Nashville?
2015.
Okay. What was the first band you played in Nashville when you got here? Like, were you like?
I think it was Moru. I don't remember playing for it.
It would have been Slow and Steady.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I guess. I would have. Yeah, I played in Slow and Steady. Man, I totally forgot about that. Sorry, Jacob.
Jacob's a cool dude, man.
But
if you're watching this, man, we love you, dude. We miss you.
Love Jebby.
Dude, for real. But I also got to play with you as well in Mirror.
Yeah.
Traveled up to, what was it, Audio Feed?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Do you
man.
remember that?
Barely, dude. Yeah, I don't know, man. I've gone through different phases over the years where I just like was dumb, just being a
Mirror's
stupid
such a
person.
sick
So,
project. I still really love those songs.
well,
Glad you created.
I revisit that album pretty often.
oh, cool, man. I'm announcing it for the first time here, but there's a new. It's already been recorded pretty much, and Jordan McGee is going to be drumming on it. So
Hell
there's a new record.
the funniest
coming
man
out.
alive.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Literally.
We'll get
Dude,
Jordan on this
we'll-
little show here as well.
We'll go on record right now and state, like, just objectively funniest person ever to walk the earth, Jordan McGee.
He's the best.
I think you need to get Yosemite Mudflap on this podcast,
Yes.
not Jordan McGee.
Yeah.
You need to ask for Yosemite Mudflap.
He'll be both. So we're talking about Jordan McGee, the drummer for the band Advent, who's also from the Carolinas. He's from North Carolina. Winston-Salem is where he's from, and that's an amazing band. But Jordan has his own artist character called Yosemite Mudflap. You just need to check it out. Just Yosemite Mudflap into YouTube.
Dude.
You will not be disappointed. You've been one of the greatest drummers I've played with, man. I've played with a lot of great drummers, and like
Thanks.
you're the pocket dad. You're the pocket daddy. Okay, if I can say that.
Thanks, man.
You really make a groove, man.
I really appreciate that. That's awesome. I think that's all I ever aspired to be, is just feeling good, making people, groove and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's rad. Thank
and
you.
you play
dude.
technical stuff too, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So
Thanks, man.
He loves a based drum beat.
A bass? What is a bass drum beat?
Oh man. So I have this idea that I want to do, and I still haven't done it yet, but I want to do this like TikTok where I just like listen. I pick out certain sections of. It could be a fill. It could be just a beat in itself. But when I hear something I really like, it makes me giggle a lot. And so I'm trying to think of like.
That's great.
Like Zan's experienced it before. I hear it and I'm like.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
like
so
a sick
funny.
fill or like
Just
any particular
like
genre?
A beat that's like so simple that it's sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect example is the heavy part in Terracide that he wrote the
Yeah.
like
Specifically that kick pattern.
the
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't remember that particular part, but there's this like
Yeah.
amazing.
Another one that comes to the top of my brain is like Korn's Got the Life.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh yeah.
Happening, you know,
it's one of the greatest.
The little snare fill, the ba ba da ba da ba 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 da ba ba, you know, like
Yeah, those like three
Korn
symbol
rules.
hits.
Dude, every 6 months I'll just listen to Here to Stay Again and just lose my mind.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is the heaviest thing I've ever heard. Everything about that is just
Korn is so
good.
sick.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they're still out there doing it, man.
Yeah.
it's crazy,
Dude, the last two records that they did were sick.
They rule. I listened to
They're
them
so
both.
good.
They're awesome, and Head is back, man. We
Yeah.
got Head back in the game. So there's one more thing I want to get to that's really important to me in this conversation, and that is talking a little bit about That 70s House, which for a time it was the place to see underground metal shows and really all kinds of shows, emo, singer-songwriter stuff, anything that was like part of the underground scene. It's my understanding that Tate Mercer started it, and then some other roommate situations happened, and Zan ended up you pretty much ran that place for a while. And talk to us how that all came together. Were you the one who started it? Do I have that wrong?
No, it was Tate and John Emling.
Yeah.
They were the like original like core roommates that lived there. I was actually interning for Tate at the studio before I moved in there, but we were hanging out every day, and then he told me like, oh, we're actually like doing a show at my house tonight, and I was like, oh, you do shows at your house? And he was like, no, this is the first one, but I think it's going to become like a regular thing. Muir played that show.
What? I played the inaugural 70s
That
House
was
show?
the first 70s House show was Muir.
And you played that show too, didn't you?
I was not playing that show.
Did we play it as a three-piece?
I think it was a three-piece that time.
Yeah. Wow.
But it was Muir, Native Tongue, John's old band.
I remember Native Tongue.
And On Point. I think maybe Pocket Science played that, or maybe they had not formed yet.
Wow.
I think
I played in Pocket Science.
Yeah.
You did.
I think it was just Muir, Native Tongue, and On Point at the time.
Is that where they had the Hawaiian shirts?
Yeah. They had like pool floats and everything. God. And that was when like the band was still set up in the corner of the room.
Yep.
That was the inaugural 70s House show.
Oh my God.
And then like it became like a maybe once or twice a month kind of thing, and then it kind of snowballed from there. I moved in maybe 6 months later, and then Tate and I kind of like traded off booking and running shows, and running sound and do like running the door and everything. And then Tate ended up moving to Portland. And then John's brother Eric moved in. So then it was me, John, and Eric running the house and doing all
Love those dudes. The Emling brothers rule.
Shout out
those
John
dudes
and
are
Eric.
Great dudes.
Yeah.
Incredible guys.
Yeah. One of my... You guys can share your favorite memories of 70s House. I'll share one. It was like a New Year's party, maybe? Some kind of party where we were just all hanging out, having a great old time.
Every New Year's party.
A couple cases of Stag beers there.
Oh, yeah.
And no, it was a Halloween party because John Emling was dressed as a football player.
Oh, yeah. I remember that now.
We partied pretty hard in the football outfit.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I went. I probably didn't even come in a costume. Being the emo person that I am,
Dude,
but God, that was hilarious, man.
There were some crazy parties at that house. I mean, there was the New Year's party where when we did like the midnight countdown to the ball drop, and when the ball dropped, John shot off a fire extinguisher in the basement.
I think I remember. I was there for that.
Yeah, and that was bad because that was when everyone like realized like, oh, you're not supposed to inhale fire extinguisher.
Oh, shoot.
So like people are running out of the house like vomiting and like coughing. And
John was like, "Yeah, this is the right thing to do."
There were a few people. There were a few people who came up to me and were like, "Who was that? I'm gonna beat his ass." And I was like, "That's
Calm down.
That's my roommate. He lives here. You can't do that." Like,
calm down. Well, one of my other favorite things about 70s House and having seen some more of the rowdier shows there was there's like it's basically like an unfinished basement with like no insulation. It's just like wooden slats. If anybody's been to a 70s house or a house that was built in the 70s, and people would like grab onto these wooden parts of the ceiling in the basement and try to support their body weight with it, and a couple times they would just like pull them down and end up like on their back on the ground or what. It was just
my favorite moment like that happened was when we had As Cities Burn play at the house.
I've got the poster somewhere in here. No, I don't.
I've got it.
Yeah.
I've got some extras at home. I can give you one.
I seriously have one.
Gotcha.
It's just in storage right now.
But I specifically told the guys in As Cities Burn before their set, I was like, hey, can you, like, I know people are going to be crowd surfing and like trying to grab the mic and everything. Can you tell them before they do this, please don't like hang on the rafters? Because they're just pieces of wood and that are just...
They have one nail.
Yeah, there's literally a nail holding this piece of wood up. Please don't hold on. And TJ was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll say something. And he said like very brief in passing, like right before they started, he was like, don't grab the rafters. And then what does he do? First song, jumps up, grabs onto a rafter and swings from it and rips it out of the ceiling. And that one had our only ceiling light attached to it. So he ripped the light out of the ceiling, and I'm just standing there like, what did I just say?
Oh gosh. Yeah, man. Gosh,
but then
so many good times there.
Yeah, there was another guy at that show who like right after the set, he like apparently came to the show in his work truck, and he like does construction, or he was an electrician or something.
He
fixed the light and reinstalled the rafter.
Dude, the
and
metal
made it like
scene
so
rules.
made it so much more stable after that.
Incredible.
Yeah, I don't remember what his name was, but shout out to that.
That's
guy.
awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that 70s house was like an era in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
There were other venues in town, but it was cool to go to a show for $5, you know, and hang out in the backyard, and the neighbors didn't care. I think there were other Belmont students or something renting the neighboring houses.
Right.
So it just became our space. Like, I don't remember any like drug abuse or anything. There was cigarettes and beer, but I don't remember any like really bizarre, weird, bad stuff happening. It was always like good vibes for the most part. I think that's because of you, man. Like,
I mean, everything for the most part at every show at 70s was relatively tame. I mean, like it definitely got rowdy. But you know, we didn't have any really big fights. We didn't have any like people doing any like hard drugs or like or breaking anything or doing anything really bad. It was like it was like a mutual understanding, like this is a special
protect
thing.
the venue.
Yeah, it was like this is a special thing that
we want to keep having shows
here.
Like don't be a dummy.
Yeah.
Now it's my understanding that Belmont University purchased those houses and tore them down and expanded the ever expanding Belmont campus.
Yeah.
Have you been over there recently and seen what they've done with that?
Yeah. It's like it's a classroom building now.
Yeah.
Like so it like in the spring of 2021, we got a notification from the landlord that we had 90 days to vacate, or maybe it was 60 60 days to vacate.
It's a pretty reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, it wasn't like you got to be out by next week. It was like we had enough time to get out. But
yeah, but the bummer was just like, you know, that was still like kind of uncertain.
Yeah,
can we have shows like now? And
Yeah.
that was the biggest bummer. It's like we didn't even get to say bye to it.
Yeah,
It was-
have a send off
I
show.
mean, it
That
was
was-
such a special place to me.
I
I saw so many great bands in that basement
yeah,
for next to no money,
yeah.
and made some lifelong friends. Like, just literally like a very, very special place that is gone, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely sucked that we didn't get to have like a send-off show for it or anything, because it was still like COVID times and things were very uncertain. It was nice that they like I like kind of like cornered the landlord into telling me like, hey, why are we getting kicked out? And they were like,
I sold the house for $870,000 to Belmont.
it was well
Probably more than that.
they said like they were trying to be diplomatic and not give too much away, and they were like, it's for future developments. And I was like, so they're tearing the house down? And they're like, they will be developing new things on the property. And I'm like, so they're tearing the house down? And she was like, yeah, they are.
Gosh, man.
And I was like, so I don't have to clean this place? And she was like, no, you will not be charged any cleaning fee.
That's awesome,
and you will
though.
definitely get your security deposit back. And I was like, I'm gonna destroy this place.
Well, let's go ahead and start smashing the windows.
Oh, dude, I don't think that there was a single piece of glass in that building that was not broken.
Are you serious?
Oh, dude, we trashed.
You guys had
it.
fun with it?
We had so much fun.
That's cool.
I mean, we cried a lot that night.
Oh,
but,
yeah, I bet.
But yeah, we definitely had fun with it.
You know,
Dude,
on that note, it's maybe a good idea that there wasn't a last show, because y'all definitely would have like fed into
It would have, dude. It would have been.
It would have been
burnt
like,
down.
hey, let's like 70 last 70s show. Like, let's
want to see
tear
this place
down.
ablaze.
People
Yeah.
would have gotten hurt.
Oh yeah, it would have.
Yeah, you don't want to be responsible for. You don't want people trying to get out of a burning building at a show. As fun, as cool as that sounds on the surface, like that's you don't want to.
Do you remember when there was like it was like maybe around like 2016 or something, when there was like people talking about how there was like a group of neo-Nazis that had like a list of like DIY house venues that they were going to go try to start fires at.
I don't remember hearing anything about that.
There was like a thing, and we had a show that week because there was some kind of like house like rave or something where there was like a group of like neo-Nazis that started a fire at the house, and the place burnt down, and like a bunch of people couldn't get out and they died. And then there was like a panic, like so there was some like 4chan thread that was leaked about like this neo-Nazi group that had lists of DIY venues all around the country, and 70s House was on the list. And
That was like Trump times back during that.
it
era.
was like right when Trump had gotten
the country
elected.
started to really kind of split.
Yeah.
like for the worse, you know, like people started to pick sides.
And
more.
that was when we stopped putting the address on the flyers. And
Yeah,
started
I
just
remember
putting
that.
Ask a Punk. Because the first show that we did that, the reason we were scared about it is because it was a benefit for the Tennessee Refugee Fund. And there was like someone sent me a link to like there was a comment on this like Nazi 4chan post about our show.
Oh, like let's go mess up this place.
Yeah.
They're doing this
And
refugee thing.
So we like did our best to like purge the address of the house from anywhere related to the event. Started only saying Ask a Punk. Nothing ever came of it, thank God, but yeah, it was a scary time.
The house show thing used to be a lot more common in Nashville, and that was a special time. And now Nashville is unfortunately it's just become super gentrified, and it's become very expensive to the point where like it's starting to lose some of its value. It feels like in terms of like quality of life, because there's so many people there. There's so it's so expensive to live there. But back when I first moved to Nashville, I have so many just fond memories of going to house shows, and 70s House is probably at the top of the list of those memories. But guys, it's been awesome having you on this little podcast that is still yet to be named. But tell us what's on the schedule for Moru for the next couple months.
I mean, we don't have like any tour dates booked as of yet. We've got a few shows booked for the fall. Got an album release show on July 20th at a place called the Arcane Workshop, which is in Madison, or like East Nashville, basically.
Oh yeah, I've heard about this place.
Yeah, it's like a D&D, like Magic the Gathering kind of game shop.
Oh, cool.
It's rad.
Yeah.
I've seen some video clips from this place. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it's a cool spot. It's a good size for like small to medium like local shows. But yeah, so we're doing our release show there with Pelagius, Dogpile, and Walking Wounded, who's from Ohio.
Awesome.
Yeah.
July 20th, Arcane Workshop.
Yeah, it's actually my 30th birthday.
Let's go, dude. That's gonna be a fun night. I'll definitely be there. Any last parting words that you want to share with the world about the record?
Listen to it. And, buy it. Vinyl's expensive, and we want to not lose a lot of money on this record.
Yeah, order a vinyl, please. Support these guys. Moru on Bandcamp, Moru Nashville Bandcamp. Just do a quick Google search.
Yeah.
These are some of the best dudes I know, and they're making some amazing heavy music. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next interview, in the next video. Peace.